Greetings, everyone. Today is day 7 of the Navarasa Series, Decoding the 9 Emotions During Navaratri. Today's emotion is disgust, and from the corporate standpoint, we are going to talk about self pity, self hatred, and being judgmental. And who else could be a better person to talk on this topic than Aparna C, who has more than 2 decades of work experience in the HR domain. She is currently heading she's the VP HR for AcnaMed. And welcome to the show, Aparna.
Thank you so much, Megha. And I know when I got your WhatsApp message and the conversation we had, I'm like, this is an interesting topic, and I would be more than happy to share my experience. And thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm sure we're going to have very interesting conversation today because you being in the HR domain must have dealt with multitudes of emotions from varying angles and you also have the perspective not only from the employee standpoint but also from the corporate, the employer standpoint. So now let me just dive straight into my first question. So, you know what happens there? I always personally believe that there are 3 sides to a situation: your side, my side, and the truth, which is somewhere in between. Having said this, in the corporate workplace, we often face the situation of being judgmental and labeling people. And once a label has been put on a person, then it's very difficult to move out of that thinking process. So, how can an employee handle this and change the labeling process? And how can we become less judgmental about others?
I think this is a fantastic question, Megha. Um, it's so easy to label others. So I'm just going to take the first part, right? It's so easy to label others, but we forget that, what is the impact that it's going to have on the other person when you do that, right? The minute we start thinking on those lines, I think we will stop labeling people. Imagine something like that happens to you. What goes, what goes through you is what you should understand before you start labeling people. So it's basically, I feel, be empathetic, listen. You don't know the other side of the story before you even label people, right? That's the way I look at it. Yes, judgmental, wow, that is, it's not easy to exactly define, but here is the way I have managed over the years, right? A few things. These have helped me in the situation that I have gone through. How successful? Well, each one of us have our own way of dealing with success, right? So first I would say is avoid engaging in arguments, especially when someone is being judgmental towards you. It can be very tempting to argue back or defend yourself, which is the easiest to do, right? You argue or defend yourself. But this only fuels the fire and can make the situation worse. Instead, can we try and stay calm and avoid getting drawn into an argument, which is not easy. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of patience to be even there. So that's the first thing that I would say. Then it's important to set boundaries. For example, if a co-worker's behavior is making you uncomfortable or is crossing a line, it is important to set boundaries. You can do this very in a calm, without making faces or your body language changing. You can only tell the person saying, hey, you don't appreciate these comments or their behavior. That's, I think, is what I have learned over the years, right? So that's one. The third is focus on the facts. What if someone's actually making judgments about your work? It can be useful to focus on the facts. But, it's also good to then go back and ask the person saying, provide evidence or data to support your position, and don't let emotion cloud the discussion. It's very easy to get very emotional and saying, no, I know it all. and stuff like that, right? I'm sure all of us do that. You and me, have come from the corporate world and all of it. You know how it is. I would say the fourth point is seek support. It can be helpful to talk to a trusted colleague or a manager about the situation. They may be able to offer, support or advice on how to handle in case you're still very amateur, you've not been in the industry for a long time, you don't know how to deal with such situations. The last but not the least, I would say lead by example. Finally, remember, you lead by example. To avoid making judgments about others and focus on treating your co-workers with respect and professionalism, this can help create a more positive and productive work environment. That's the way, I have looked at, right? It's not easy. It's not something that I got it just like that. I think it's over the years. Have I mastered it completely? I would say no, but I'm getting there. It takes time. It's not something that can, happen, right? Now, if I have to go a little more in detail, or am I moving into the next question? I don't know. The way I look at it is, I think these 4-5 things, if we do, it will help us in a certain bit of manner.
True. I think, there is no actual solid answer. We all in the corporate world have learned things. I'm sure the person that I was 23 years back, I wouldn't be the same person. And we've all learned, we've all evolved, and that's the way to go. And mastery takes time. So the solutions are, very nice, that we need to not be defensive about it. We have to set boundaries and reason it out, and then basically support it with facts. Then the discussion becomes more not being judgmental and being more focused on what are the steps that somebody can take. So I think these are very valuable inputs. And now, coming to my next thought process is that, sometimes what happens is a person who is judgmental will also get into this self-analysis and being self-critical. And then the person becomes, basically not taking any action about it. And that impacts the workplace, the productivity. So how to deal with such kind of people at the organization level, and how can the person himself or herself come out of the situation?
Absolutely. And I think you just said it, Megha. Self-criticism and, is very difficult. It's not easy. How many of us actually do it, right? But it's also important to remember that everyone's experience moments of self-doubt and self-criticism at some point happens in all our lives, right? But here are a few things that I think can be helpful. First, let's practice self-compassion. Okay. Self-compassion, what do I mean by that, right? In treating yourself with kindness, concern, right? And support that you would offer to a good friend. Instead of focusing on your flaws and mistakes, maybe we should try and see if we can be gentle, with just and acknowledge our own SWOT analysis, right? Our own SWOTs. Like, we have our strengths, we have our weakness. Can we look at that and stop, looking at so much of self-criticism? That's all right. We can all get there, right? That's what I would say the first thing that has worked for me. And I think somewhere we should stop doing negative self-talk, which is so easy, right?
Hello.
Sorry. The negative self-talk, right? Can we just reframe it?
Okay.
Instead of saying, I am a failure, maybe, I don't know, I've always said, maybe I made a mistake, but that doesn't define me as a person, right? All of us make mistakes, yeah? To err is human. So let's look at it more from a positive standpoint. That's something that, yes, has worked for me. Then I think we should also take action. If somewhere you feel, so I think just recently on LinkedIn, I think I posted it, something where every small step can be looked at as success.
Okay.
Instead of waiting for a big success, take small steps. So every step that you have can be a success. And you should start rejoicing that. That's, these are some things that have worked. And yeah, and thank you for asking such a question, which is difficult, not easy to answer, but then gives you some thoughts to even process what you should do.
True.
And last but not least, I would say, seek support. If it's still getting to you,
True.
Seek support, a therapist, a counselor, or someone whom you feel will understand where you're coming from, right? Will help you in dealing with self-criticism.
Definitely.
So it could be even guidance for that matter. We all have people that we reach out to.
True.
Yeah.
So I think I'll definitely take a look at the LinkedIn post that you have mentioned, because I also personally believe that we should celebrate small successes and take small steps, because each one of us, if it takes small steps, and somewhere we don't know that small step, maybe that small action might be very big for the other person, because like you rightly said that we don't know what the other person is going through. So let's
Absolutely.
take these small steps. So that brings me to my another question now, that how, every person has a different journey. And a lot of times when people join the organization, it may not be possible for anybody to open up and, say the journey. So I'm sure HR does a fantastic job of bringing people together and organizing events. We saw it in COVID also, doing so many things. But still, a lot of times, especially when the person is at the senior level, is a founder, is building a business, or he's at a leadership position, it's very difficult to come out of, some tough situations. So how can a person maintain harmony when you are dealing with a tough situation, personally or professionally?
Again, these are some things that I have practiced, right? I can only tell you over the years what I've learned.
Sure.
Did anybody teach us? Unfortunately, no. I think there have been times when I have looked up to people, seen how they have, maneuvered, and then, okay, these are some things that could work. But then I think all of us have our own thought processes and steps that we take to ensure we all come out of this. The first, I would say, again, self-care. Practice self-care. Take care of yourself. First, that's very important, right? This is like, I still remember, or rather, every time you fly, right? In the airline, what do they say? First, take care of yourself before you put the oxygen mask to your child. I think that's primarily the first key point, right? Take care of yourself, physically, emotionally, mentally. Make sure you get enough sleep, exercise, or eat healthy food, whatever works for you, right? Take breaks throughout the day to do something that brings you joy. It could be as small thing as listening to music, right? For me, I know when I drive, I listen to music or I talk to friends, right? I mean, you know me, Mega. So, I reach out to people. The conversation that you have with somebody else can take you to at different levels. So each one of us have that thing that can bring joy. So start looking for those. Again, seek support. Again, I say seek support. Talk to a trusted person. It could be a family member, a health professional, about what we're going through. How many of us do that? It's very difficult. But I think thanks to COVID today, we are less hesitant to talk about what's affecting us.
Yes.
So just having that one person to confide in can help you process your feelings and reduce your stress levels. I think this is so important. So I always tell people, right, be it whomever, find that one person. You only need one person who can be there for you. But if you can find more than one, nothing like it. But at least get that one person. And I'm sure we all have somebody or the other that we can reach out. True. So yeah, that's what I would say. And again, I would say set boundaries, right? Which is so important, because so set boundaries again from a very different I would say personal life and work. It's easy to say leave your personal issues at home and focus on work while you're there, but it's not easy. It takes time. I'm sure you know, it's like as simple as, on the Women's Day, when I was talking to a group of women within my own organization. We all got together to have a conversation, and I said, I know, but I said it more from a positive standpoint, right? I said, I know all of us here are thinking about what next once we go home. And
Yeah.
everybody, had that smile on their faces when they said yes. And one of them actually came and said, Aparna, I'm actually thinking what to go home and cook. you know
Yes, true. Yeah,
so,
actually,
but yeah, but that happens. But see, that's more from a positive standpoint, right? But there could be issues, personal issues at home, but how do you put that back at home, and then how do you bring yourself to work is very different. So I think that's very important that we do that, like, and prioritizing self-care activities is very, very important. Be it that even a 2 minute of meditation you want, whatever, right? Listen to music. And again, what kind of music? It could be peppy music and stuff like that. It all depends on what kind of music lifts your mood. That's what I would say. Then I would say communicate with your colleagues if you're comfortable. I think this takes time. This doesn't happen overnight. I think you need to build that rapport, build that relationship at work to even reach there. And also, especially with colleagues, you should know whom to trust.
okay.
Because you are giving a piece of yourself. So that's so important.
True.
And this can also understand any changes that they see in your behavior and avoid misunderstandings. I think it's primarily that's where I was coming from.
Definitely.
And then in all of this, if you're still not able to, and you still feel it's impacting your work, seek flexibility. Talk to your manager. Talk to whomever you can, be it the senior HR that you're comfortable with, or your manager. Talk to them about what is going on with you. It's so important, right? And try to come up with a flexibility. But how many of us can do that today is my question that I will always ask. How many of us are ready to take that step, right? So yeah, that's so I think if we do all of these five, and I know I can say it for a fact that yeah, it can bring in harmony to your thoughts and actions at work, even during your tough personal phases. It can.
So what I understand is, if you are in a tough situation, you have to take tough stand. There is no easy way out. And very well
Absolutely.
said that, you also have to be very cautious about whom you're giving yourself out at the workplace, because it has to be leveraged in a certain way. It cannot be like saying everything to everybody and then having, it's like asking people, can you judge me? It's like that. So I think
Yeah.
so now, like since you mentioned about your Women's Day celebration in your office, so I was also recently invited to a Women's Day event, and it was an eye opener. One of the questions that the lady asked was an eye opener for me, because um, the workplaces are becoming much more challenging and complex now. Earlier, we had to deal with only maternity. It took so many, decades for India to, the corporate world to accept giving extended maternity leave. Now there are cohorts of people, single parents, whether it is single mother, single father. See, it's difficult for both the gender. I would be equally, I would say it's very difficult journey, whether it's a mother or a father. So what are the organizations, uh, doing to handle or help such cohorts? I know it might not be a very big cohort, but for the person who is in that situation, it's very challenging. And I'm asking this question because I've also seen these kind of things happening, now. Once that question was popped up, then I spoke to a couple of people, and then I realized I had never asked those personal questions. But then some of them are actually, doing corporate job and parenting all by themselves due to different situations. So how can organizations come forward and help in such issues?
So it's very interesting, right? Single parenting, as you said, I think it is gender agnostic, right? It doesn't matter whether it's a single mother or a single father. Today we see both. And again, I would say let's not be judgmental there, right? Parenting is parenting, irrespective of who the gender is.
True.
Unfortunately, we are yet to get there. Today, if you ask me, yeah, my son is almost 24, 25 today. And those days, nobody asked me, how was I managing, dropping him off somewhere, then getting to work. Nobody asked us that. But I think today's challenges are a lot more different than what we went through, right? Or I don't know, the way people look at it, it's very different. Again, if you're from the same city, then you have your, support system and all of it. But I think from an organization standpoint, maybe do we have such personal conversations with people, first and foremost? I think to even do that, you need to be non-judgmental of the parenting, whether it's a single parent, who or what is something that we shouldn't even be worried about. How can we support them? Can we bring in flexibility is what I would say. It's not easy. Can we offer support in finding something close by to the organization so that, be it whether the mother or the father is always available in case the child needs? Again, it depends on which age the child is in and a whole lot of stuff, right? So do I have an answer to it? Unfortunately, no, because we have a long way to go. But I think as an organization, we should start looking at,
that situation.
Thinking through a little differently is all I can say.
Yeah, actually, it's not an easy question because this question came as a surprise. And even the panelists during that day, they were not able to answer it. So it's, I think, and that's why I wanted to bring this question forward, because when I heard this and then I spoke to a couple of people, and then I realized that it will be a challenging situation, and it is a challenging situation for people whom I know. So there would be, so I think personal conversations and trying to make things easier is, and trying to get them support is something. And then that role of HR becomes all the more, challenging and difficult. So people like you who are the veterans in this industry and who've, seen the shift from what, basically things were very different when we started working. And now things are dynamically different. So I think a lot of people like you can make a change in this direction. So
yeah, let's all to get, see, I wouldn't say just one person, right? Together we can all make that difference is all I can say. Yeah, we have a long journey.
definitely. So now, coming to my next question. So since you meet a lot of people, so what are the attitude? Now I will focus more from the employee perspective. So since you meet a lot of people, so what are the things that you would want? The attitudinal shifts that should come from the employee perspective also, so that they can manage their challenges better and be more productive. Because the purpose of doing these talks is that we should build more happier workplaces, and not after 1 hour of discussion saying, oh yes, you know what, I'm saying such good things about my organization, but now you know what, I'm so sorry to say that this thing, but I'm actually looking for a change. So how do we make such shifts? What are the things that you would want people to change?
I think this is a very difficult question, right? What might work well for me might not work for others. So the way I would look at it is, I think embracing diversity and inclusion. This shift involves acknowledging and values, right? Differences among people, including gender, race, ethnicity, religion, even the sexual orientation that I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's just a few things that I could just bring it about, right? But by embracing diversity and inclusion, men and women in the workforce can foster a more collaborative and supportive work environment, and allows everyone to contribute their unique perspectives and talents. I think that's something like, how many of us in meetings listen to both, everybody who's coming up with an idea, right? It's as simple as, what I see is, okay, somebody within your own team, for example, let me give you an example. Within your own team, that you have one person coming up with one idea. How many of us actually say, all right, let's look at it and build on it? No, we think we know it all. We don't want to think anything else, and we'll just shut it down, right? That's the easiest part. So I would say, just include everybody. Listen, at the most, what will happen? You'll make a mistake. No, that's all. Nothing else will happen. So
True.
I would say, yes, listen to everybody, right? Acknowledge. Then I think another thing that a lot I can see today is prioritizing work-life balance. The
Mhm.
shift involves, recognizing the importance of balancing work responsibilities with personal and family life. Men and women in the workforce should prioritize. I'm not saying just women, right? Even men, mental and physical health, family time, personal interests to avoid burnout and maximize productivity. Why
Very,
only women?
yeah,
Why can't we look at even men going through it? You
true,
think they don't have a burnout? They do. Why are we only focusing on women at times?
true.
So that's why. Supporting each other. The shift. So somewhere we have to create that culture of support and encouragement among our co-workers, regardless of the gender. It could be one of my male colleagues could come and say, hey, my mother is not well. I need to take care of her. It doesn't have to be a woman all the time, right? Or it could be as simple as saying, hey, today I want to go shopping for myself.
Mm.
That's your self-care, right? You want to do it for yourself. So I think that's the kind of culture that we need to create in an organization. Men and women in the workforce can help each other, right? It could be, do we talk about goals, share ideas, provide feedback, right? Something, even if you have to get criticism, can we do it in a very respectful and a professional manner? When that'll happen? The minute we put our ego aside.
Yeah.
Maybe this kind, I don't know, this is my thought. This kind of attitudinal shifts can create a more collaborative and inclusive work environment where everyone can thrive and do well. So this is what, I'm glad you asked me both men and women, because I always believe in gender agnostic.
Policies. True. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, work is tough for irrespective of the fact whether a person is a male or a female. Work is challenging for both. And, it has to be recreation, like you said, recreation or self development activities have to be put in a priority. Even for men, it's not only something related that something only women should have or enjoy. So that's a very valid point, and I hope most employees who are listening to this talk will understand the value of recreation and self-care and seeking out and putting the ego out to listen in to the feedback and suggestions that anybody else is also making. Now, coming to one question, what happened recently in January, I did a dipstick amongst a cohort of women with experience of at least 10 years. And it's a sustainable base sample size because I come from the research background. So I always look at sample.
I know that.
So couple of questions that came to my from that research itself. So I would like to ask you these questions. That after a certain point in time, females, whether they are in the workforce. So currently we focus on those female who are actually in the workforce itself, but they are still finding it difficult to move to the next level. So there were like questions like, we don't know what the opportunities are. We don't know how to get there to the leadership roles. We don't know what are the kind of role expectations. So how can women rise from mid level to senior level so that they are actually seen in boardrooms as well?
Okay. I think the first thing that I would say is identify your career goals. Please understand each one of us have to look at ourselves and saying, where do you want to be? What kind of leadership role that you want to pursue, right? Research on the requirements, research on the expectations of such roles, and also what are the skills that you currently have? And to get to that level, what are the skills that you would need? So if you can identify that bit, it becomes easier for you to grow as a person,
Okay.
right? So that's one. I would say this with a strong emphasis, build a strong network. How many of us women actually do that? We don't. So can we start doing it consciously, right? We can build a very professional network, which should include mentors, sponsors. What do I mean by sponsor? Someone who can sponsor you as a person, right? It doesn't have to be money. Sponsors talk about you, right? And colleagues who will provide guidance and support and opportunities for growth. Referral network, right? That's what we say. Reference always works. So that's where I say build a strong network. They should also seek opportunities and connect with senior leaders in their current organization or industry agnostic, right? You want to know somebody who's somewhere, start doing that to gain insights into the skills and experience that is required for that particular role or any role that you have identified that you want to get there.
True.
And then, of course, I think both these two will come to the next point saying develop your skills and experience. We should take ownership, right? We should take, as women, we should take those steps to develop the skills and experience required for such senior leadership roles. Even though it can be taking challenging assignments, let's take it up, pursuing something to learn, and see. And how many of us actually look at, opportunities cross department? How many of us actually look at that? We don't. But do you even realize that something like that can also bring in some of the, strengths or skills that you need?
True.
Or maybe you have it, you have not realized.
Sure.
I would say, and then promote your achievements. How many of us do that? We're all very shy. No. Please don't talk about me. No, I didn't do anything. I'm like, it's all right. You've done your job. Take credit for it. It's as simple as that.
True.
Let's highlight our own success. No, be it your performance review or even seeking, feedback from your colleagues or even people reporting to you. Let's leverage, social media and other platforms to showcase what we have done. How many of us do that? And I would say, last but not the least, seek out opportunities. Women should actively start seeking out opportunities to advance their career. It can be anything. Unless you ask, you will not get it.
True. Very true.
So that's the way I think women should position themselves for success and advance the careers. Yeah, it's important that we should do. But for all of that, you have to be proactive. You have to promote your achievements and seek out opportunities.
True. So it has to be done in a well-concerted manner and proactively and seek out. I think very well, suggestions and inputs, and I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from it. And now the other thing that also came up was, how do they negotiate on salary? See, it has taken 22 years for Priyanka Chopra Jonas to get an equal pay. There was an article I read recently. So how do, she is a film star, global recognized. So how do other people negotiate better, to get an pay parity?
See, I'm sure even for her to reach, it's not been easy. And I'm glad that she's been vocal about it, right? It's very important that you're vocal. But again, for all of this, the first thing I would always say is research. Research and prepare yourself. You know what you're getting into. You should know what is the position, pay scale is, all of that. So that the minute, and then with your skill sets, with your accomplishments, what is it that and what is the value that you as an individual bring to the table. So that's point number one. And I think, let's say it right, very clear. Be confident and assertive. There are two things. We should. And as women, we don't. And I'm no exception, right? While I'm saying all of this, if you ask me how many times have I done that, very rare. So yeah, I would also, but again, not all of us are after money. Some of us look at a lot of different things, right? True. So that's a call that only you have to take. And then again, focus on the job, not the person. So women should, I would say, should focus on the job requirements and responsibilities rather than their own personal circumstances. When negotiating salary, especially that, they should avoid making personal requests or justification. Saying, oh, I need more money for the family and stuff like that. Focus on the role, focus on what you can bring to the table. And then, so I think as women, we should practice this negotiating. How many of us have actually done that?
Yeah. We need to practice and focus on the role and not focus on the personal
Absolutely.
aspect. Very good. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
now,
and then I think now a last point that I wanted to say for is at times also it might not be just the money, but you could also look at the non-salary benefits,
hmm,
right? Such as flexible work environment, additional vacation time, or
true.
professional development opportunities and stuff like that. I think these are some things that could help women get to the next level.
Sure. I think these are such interesting practical inputs, and that's why I had requested you, because it can come only from an HR perspective and not from anybody else. And these are very actionable items. I'm sure a lot of women will be benefited from this. So, in the interest of time, one last question, Aparna. A lot, since our topic is self pity and all that. So I always see a lot of folks, when they're coming up back to work. Oh, I was, like taking care of my kids and this and that. They don't position themselves assertively. So what if you were taking care of the kid? That was something that they had to
Right.
do. So
So
so how should people, ladies, position themselves when women returnees position themselves to the
I
corporate?
think first and foremost, I think as women, we feel underconfident at times, right? Especially when you're coming back after a break. That is because you feel during the break, you have been, only managing family and you have not learned anything new and you don't know what's happening in the industry and stuff like that. But I think for all of that, let's be very clear, reframe your mindset, reframe it, right? It's very important
Hmm.
saying remind yourself of the value that you're going to bring to the organization, the experience that you have, and the skills you possess that nobody can take away from you, right? Irrespective of where you come from. Interestingly, I was having a conversation with one of my doctor friends, and who was telling me she had come down from London, and we were just having this conversation. Interestingly, what she said? She said, what? I've made both my daughters to take up medicine. I said, why? She said, I think from where I see it, medicine is one industry where women, even after going for a break, are not lost out. You don't lose out on where you're coming from. So I think that kind of gave me a different mindset altogether. But yeah, that's a conversation that I had. So I think somewhere I would say, let's reframe the mindset. Let's look at it differently. Then research the current market, right? How many of us do that? I know today women do it. That's one. Practice your pitch. How are you going to pitch yourself? How do you bring yourself to the table? There
Hmm.
are so many things you would have done even when you have taken a break. Do you even realize that? How
Sure.
many of us do? I think it's good to do that. Consider other, as I said, consider other factors like, work-life balance, the which is not exactly money, but more on the non-salary benefits. Concentrate on that as well to begin with, right? And then end of the day, I think the last but not the least, I would say, remember your worth.
True. Remember
It's
your
very
word.
important. Yeah. You should not feel guilty or undervalued for negotiating a salary.
Wow.
So that's what I would say. I
Love
have nothing else to say.
Lovely talking to you, Aparna, and thank you for the powerful insights that you have given. Thank you for your time. It's really worth, and I hope it will make a change in the life of a few people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Megha, for inviting me. And I really enjoyed this conversation. I think I needed to put all of this, as a thought process as well. So, yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we should catch up for a cup of coffee.
Sure. Done. Thank you. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.